The Jags go 0-4 in their 2022 preseason. No big deal, lots of good things. I'm going to go into it. You're going to hear it from Duval's finest right now. What's good, everybody? It's Andrew coming back at you with another episode of the Jaguar podcast. In today's episode, we'll be doing a recap of the Jags 2022 preseason. So let's get started. Lots of good things, guys. I mean, despite the Jags going 0-4, which it doesn't matter. I mean, it's preseason, no big deal, but lots of positive things. Start off with Trayvon Walker, first-round draft pick out of Georgia. He looked really good for the Jags, man. He was getting a lot of good pressure in the first game, the Hall of Fame game against the Raiders. And he looked good, in the Pittsburgh game, was getting really good pressure, getting after it, good pursuit, making tackles, making stops. So really excited to see what he could do in the regular season. I mean, alongside Josh Allen and, Dewan Smoot and all those other pass rushers that we have. I think Jacksonville could have a pretty nasty defense this year. Arden Key, another guy we picked up in free agency. He looked really good in the preseason. He had 2 sacks in the Hall of Fame game against the Raiders. Also had a sack in the Pittsburgh game as well. So I think he's going to be maybe a breakout player or just another nice, defensive weapon that we have for this upcoming season. The secondary looked really good. Tyson Campbell had some really nice plays, especially in the Pittsburgh game. That hit against Pickens just lit his ass up, and it was really nice to see. I'm excited about Tyson Campbell, man. That guy's he's a hard worker, and he's just getting after it, and it'll be really exciting to watch him. Daniel Thomas, who I had on the podcast, he had an interception in the Falcons game. I think the first play, actually. So that was really nice to see. I think he's going to make this roster. I'm hoping he gets a starting position there, as a safety. But we'll see what happens. The defensive line, the tackles looked pretty good. Devon Hamilton looked good. Foley Fatukazi, who we picked up, he had some nice stops in the Pittsburgh game. So hopefully he'll, be, plugging up those holes and gaps and letting our linebackers fly around and make some tackles. Tufele, who we drafted, I believe, 2021 draft out of USC. I haven't been really impressed with him, man. I don't know if he gets a spot on this roster. I mean, I don't think he's been really doing much for the Jaguars. So that'll be someone to look out for, especially for, the 53-man roster. I'll be doing an episode on that in the next day or so. There's been a lot of cuts, but I don't want to get into that in this video. We'll be doing another one on that. But the D-line looked pretty good. Linebackers looked pretty good. Muma, who we drafted out of Wyoming, he looked okay. I mean, in the Pittsburgh game, I think he had made a couple of mistakes where he was out of position, but he's a good pursuit guy. I'm hearing good things about him, in camp. I think he had a couple good plays in the joint practice between the Jags and the Falcons. And he's a guy I had on the show as well. He's got a lot of fire, man. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for the Jaguars. I think he's just a guy that's trying to learn a lot. I think he's going to do really well. I don't know if he's a starter this year. I think he'll be a rotational player, in this linebacking core, probably have a special teams role as well. But I'm excited, man. He was out there making plays, especially in the Pittsburgh game, making some tackles. So it'll be exciting to see, what happens there. Aluakon, who I had on the show, he looked pretty good too. I think he'll be a nice, asset there in the linebacking core, and will bring a lot to the table from, especially his veteran leadership, and flying around the ball, man. He's a tackling machine. I think he led the league in tackles last year. So, man, we're just happy to have him, and I think he's going to be a standout on this defense. Devin Lloyd, guy we drafted out of Utah late in the first round. Probably, I suspect he might be one of the best linebackers in that draft class. He finally got a start in the Falcons game and looked pretty good. Was getting after the ball, nice pursuit there, making some tackles. So he's definitely going to be having a role there. Hopefully, he gets the start there week one or gets some reps against the Commanders. But another guy I think that's going to have a huge role on this defense in the linebacking core. Shaq Quarterman looked okay. Missed some tackles, I believe, in the might have been in the Pittsburgh and the Falcons game, but I think he's going to be a rotational guy, and hopefully, gets in there and is making some plays. Had him on the show. Check that episode out as well. But yeah, man, I've been really excited about the defense. The defense is looking good. Offensively, I don't know that with Trevor looked better. Trevor definitely looked better. Especially being coached by Doug Peterson, who was a former quarterback. In the Pittsburgh game, he missed some throws, like 10, 12-yard out routes that he kind of overthrew, which was a little concerning, but, he did do better in the following drives. So made a really nice throw between, I believe it was a defender, and hit, I want to say it was Marvin Jones Jr. on the side, close to the sideline there for a first down. So, Trevor's looking better. I think it's still going to take some time with him. I think this is, again, his rookie year kind of all over again, given that Urban kind of was a disaster and, Doug is implementing his new system. I still think we're going to have to go to the run this year. It's going to be a ground and pound with, James Robinson and Travis Etienne. We got to utilize James Robinson because he's going to take some of that pressure off of Lawrence. I know people want to see throws, especially for their fantasy teams, but I feel like we have to utilize James Robinson. He's a diamond in the rough, like Uche Nwaneri said when I had him on the show. Have to utilize him. The wide receiving core looked good. Zay Jones had a couple of really nice catches. I think he had a really nice catch in the Pittsburgh game. Has looked good. Believe he had some catches in the Cleveland game as well. So he looked good. Christian Kirk had some nice catches in the Pittsburgh game. I'm optimistic about the wide receiving core. It's definitely going to be better. It'll be interesting to see kind of how things play out with Tim Jones. I mean, he's had a really good preseason. Had some really nice catches in the Falcons game, in the Pittsburgh game. I think he definitely makes this roster just given his performance, which has just been stellar in the preseason. So he's going to be a new addition, I think, to this wide receiving core. But Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones Jr., they've all looked pretty good. So I think Trevor's going to have some weapons. And I'm leaving out Jamal Agnew, who's going to be kind of an X-factor player for the Jaguars. But wide receiving core looked good. ETN looked pretty good. We saw him. We got glimpses of him in the Pittsburgh game where he had some nice carries there. So I'm excited, man. Running backs look good. Connor, Snoop Connor didn't look very good. So I don't know, man. I don't know if he makes this roster. He just didn't look very good. Magai, I think Sargent, he looked pretty good. So maybe they'll be battling for that roster spot. But the third running back spot will be very interesting to watch in the 53 man roster kind of decisions and cuts. So more to come on that. I'll be doing an episode on that shortly. But ETN looked good. Robinson should be ready week one, so that'll be good for Trevor. Going to special teams to really close out with that. It's kind of been a shit show, for lack of a better word. we have a kicking problem, no pun intended. Little Urban Meyer joke there, but it hasn't been good. We cut Matthew Wright, who pretty much helped us win the only 3 games last season with his field goals and his kicking. They cut him on some kind of BS excuse that he couldn't do, touchbacks. He couldn't kick the ball farther enough. I don't really buy it, to be honest. So it is what it is. I think it's another Trent Baalke mistake. But here we are. So I think we had signed Elliott Fry. I think we have him. And then I think the other kicker was like James McCourt, who had like a 54-yarder in the Falcons game. So that'll be really a position to watch. We have to get that locked down because, we can't have kicking issues again. Ever since we lost Lambeau, I feel like it's and Matthew Wright, it's been downhill. But that's it, really, man. Preseason's over. We're going to roster cuts soon. There's already been some cuts made. There have been some standout ones. Laquan Treadwell being one of those. Rudy Ford, another one who I wasn't expecting the Jags to cut, who had some really nice plays last season. And then Laviska Shenault, who I'll be doing another video on that. Check that one out. But yeah, I think it was a good one, guys. Even though we didn't win any games, that's okay. Doesn't matter. Let me know how you feel about the preseason. They'll leave me a comment on the YouTube video or podcast episode. Check out Every Morning Quarterback podcast. I'll be doing a locker room series with them, just partnered up. Great bunch of guys doing awesome football content. And also FL Teams, Florida sports website. I put my content up there as well. They do all things sports coverage of Florida teams. So check it out, flteams.com. Link in the video description. And as always, guys, if you enjoy the content and you want to support me, subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy. Go Jags, and I'll see you next time. Duval! What's up, everybody? It's Andrew from the Jaguar Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, there's more content over here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as always. And remember, this is a podcast, so you can find this pretty much wherever you find podcasts. There I'll be doing interviews of current and former Jaguars players, including Joe Schobert, Dewan Smoot, Shaq Quarterman, etc. And I also do interviews of former Jaguars players, including Natron Means, Jimmy Smith, Tom McManus, etc. So be sure to check out the podcast, subscribe to it, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, go Jags, and I'll see you next time.